So now it's my pleasure to introduce one of the smartest people I know on the planet. And when I was going to do a talk on the future of marketing, this was the one guy I called, sincerely. So I'd like to invite John Hall up.
I was like the at least 10th or 15th person he called, so he's fitting in there. But yeah, let's give him a round of applause. Like really, actually, what he just did, like. So a lot of times coming from, for Erik, coming from him saying what we're going to do, it's like he's saying, hey, what we're doing is really cool. I'm here to say what he's doing is really, really freaking cool. So I'm really proud to be a part of this. I loved hearing about it. So for me to get started here, it was kind of interesting when Erik first said, hey, like, we want to talk about the future of marketing. I'm like, well, shit, if I knew the future of marketing, then I'd have it figured out. I'd just be doing marketing on my own, and I'd just be running my own companies, all with that knowledge. But the thing about marketing is that no matter what, in the next 10 to 12, 15 years, Erik is right. We're going to have artificial intelligence. We're going to have a lot of things, machine learning, a lot of things that impact how we market to people. The way we communicate is already changing every day. I'll give you an example. The other day, I was sitting on the porch with my wife, and my daughter came out. She's 4 years old, and she immediately grabbed one of my old Timex. We were going through old stuff, and you guys remember the Timex, how excited you were when it lit up. It was that blue Timex. You guys nod? Yeah. And I was excited. I saw her even play with it. I was like, man, I remember that moment as a kid when I was like 5 or 6, and I was playing with that Timex. And she looked at it, and she goes, Siri, call grandmother. And I go, what? She goes, call Grandma Hall. And I goes, you're kidding me. She thinks Suri is on the Timex. And she looks at it, she goes, this is so embarrassing. I don't know what to do. Suri's not talking. And it's unbelievable how that is my 4-year-old. It's such a different world that we're engaging people in, how we're communicating. And there's going to be AI. There's going to be all these things thrown at us. But there's going to be one thing that's not going to change. There's always going to be human influence. And so it's really important that we don't forget that as these new technologies come about. And so I wanted to, for those of you who haven't seen the Simon Sinek TEDx talk, you guys, who's seen it here? You guys watch it. It's one of the best TEDx talks I've seen. And he says start with why. And no matter what you're doing, whether it's your personal kind of goals or for what he's explaining is the company goals. And he says, like, it's not about the what, it's not about the how, but the why. Why are you doing what you do as a person? Why are you doing it as a company? It's so important to think about those things when you're thinking about communication. It doesn't matter what technology is involved. And so I watched that the other day, and I remember thinking, when I first saw it, I was like, you're right, start with why. But one of the things these last couple of years I've learned is it's not just starting with why, it's going a little further. It's starting with them, starting with your audience. And that's one of the biggest trends that I'm seeing in marketing right now, is that it used to be about me. Now it's about them. It's about you. I grew up on door-to-door sales. So I was that guy who was bugging people, selling popcorn. I remember vividly going up and just, like for example, Mrs. Roberts was across the street. And I'd go up to Miss Roberts and I'd say, Miss Roberts, I've got this popcorn. It's amazing. The butter will just touch your soul. And I would just be talking about the butter and just like, oh my God, it's great. All this stuff about the product. And in no way was I caring at all about her. I just wanted to sell the product. That does not fly these days. If Miss Roberts today, here's what would happen. It's, oh, John, hold on, let me put it on my iPhone. This butter's terrible for you. There's actually 10 articles that I saw that was horrible. And there's also these reviews about your company that just suck. There's all these things that go on where, like, how am I supposed to trust you? And I'm like, I'm just 5 trying to make money, But at that, like, this is the world we're in now. You're not seeing door-to-door sales as much. We're going away from that, where it's away from us thinking about us and our products all the time to thinking about them. And that's what I loved about Simon's speech, is that he talks about the why and why you're doing and why you exist. But I say take it a step further. Like, what about them? And how can you think about how you can change not just the new stuff, all the new marketing strategies, but how can you change old strategies that you found effective to being more useful? So for example, one of my favorite things is people say print is dead. And I think it's really funny. I'm in digital for sure, so I've even said it in the past. And even 2 weeks ago, I got a kind of a Trump card to the face that was just like, nope, it's not dead. And I was talking to a conference organizer, and he said, hey, John, honestly, I've been using some print, and I've been killing it. And I go, you have to tell me that secret. Like, there's a lot of people that are, everybody's going to digital. He goes, yeah, and that's the thing. Everybody is going to digital. I run a conference, and everybody, like, how you guys got here? Did Erik send out, like, personal notes to you? And, like, you would do that. You're a sweetheart. But you probably had it digitally. It was probably Facebook or something like that, where this conference organizer, what they did was they actually took the time to do print material, and he used technology, and this is the beauty about technology. He used it to basically tie email addresses to personal addresses to figure out exactly the demographic he was going for. And, you know, that's kind of, I mean, even some of the things that Erik said, it's kind of crazy. Stalking is normal now in marketing. We're all stalkers in some way. Even entrepreneurs are stalkers. If I did this stuff 10 years ago, people would be creeped out. But this is a new age, right? And so what this guy did was, what was so amazing is that he used this technology to hyper target the address of the people that he wanted, or that he wanted to reach so much. And he had the keynotes of each address write a personal note, that he hired a company to write the note from each keynote that and actually hyper-targeted each segment that he thought could react to that keynote. And just imagine, you get in the mail a card from, let's say, I don't know, Mark Cuban. It wasn't Mark Cuban, but Mark Cuban saying, John, just thought you would love you love this conference. I'm going to be speaking, would love to have you come. It's amazing. He used technology, data, to change something that was so old with print, a mailing card, to something pretty effective. He was extremely effective compared to anything that I've seen. And so it's amazing to see that. And that's just a short campaign. I'm not saying go run and like do print materials all the time. I'm just saying that's an example of how you can use technology for something that you've done in the past or you do to make something better. And I see that a big part of the future. And then also, one of the biggest factors that I see, whether it's your personal brand, whether it's your company brand, it's controlling the content around you. And what we're seeing every day is that people are naturally influencing you, and you're not even knowing it. You don't even know it. My wife is the best example of this. She's an incredibly smart lady that listens to me but knows nothing about marketing. That she basically listened and she goes, "Hey, I'm getting at is that you're saying that you have to really engage and help and educate others, find out how you can make them a better version of themselves, how you can like basically add value to them in every way possible while you're selling them." And I was like, yeah, pretty much. She's like, cool. I'm like, all right, she gets it. I love it. And it was a couple weeks afterwards, we had that conversation. We started doing this counseling for each other, and she talked about, well, let's talk about, you know, if we're gonna talk about marketing, let's talk about a relationship. Let's think about them instead of me. And I was like, oh, I get where she's coming from. And so I was like, yeah, let's do that. So we started having these date nights where I would just sit down there and say, hey, what can I do to be better for you? What can I do to make you happier? Because she's my most valuable client ever. I mean, like, and I'm her most valuable, I hope so. But I looked at that and it was such a cool moment because we started thinking about the other person a lot more, just like we should in marketing. And she said, one of the first meetings I'll never forget, she said, I want you to cook more. Not sex related, not, hey, can you, I don't know, buy me this, I'd love it if I got more clothes. I don't know. It could be a lot of things that you would think that were involved in marriage. She said, I'd love for you to cook more. And in that moment, I was like, okay, that's awesome. Yeah, all I have to do is cook more. And like a lot of spouses, what I did is I didn't do it. And I didn't do it at all. And I moved on with my life. And then 2 weeks later, I got a note or email from her that had an article from Plated in it. And in that article, it was 7 essential tools that you need to get started in the kitchen. And I was like, man, I'm feeling that. Went on Amazon, clicked on a button, guy was on the door 20 seconds later and was like, here. No, it was like 2 days later with Prime, but it was still pretty cool. And got all the tools. Still didn't do anything. And had my tools, all right, ready to go. Then a week later, she sent me another message that was like, it was something, I forgot the exact title, but it was like, what dumb spouses in the kitchen need to know. And I was like, that is me. I feel connected to you in this moment. And I still didn't do anything after reading that article. But I remember that moment reading it. And then it was like a week later, I got the email during the day that's like, hey, honey, excited about date night. And I was in that moment of, I think it's what I call the moment of vulnerability, when we've all been there. In my moment, I was like, oh crap, I didn't do anything I said I was going to do. The other moment is like when your boss goes, why didn't you do this? And you're like, oh crap, or our competitor's doing this, why aren't you doing it? You know, that's that, like, it's this feeling in your gut right here. It's like, you remember that? Like when it happens to all of us. And I just immediately go, where do I go? Went to Plated. And when I found that, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is a service I can use and have it sent to my work, and then I can take that home, and then I can cook it before she gets home. I can act like it's a high school party, put the box at the bottom, and like basically take the trash out down the street. She'll never know. And I did it for like 2 weeks. It was amazing. And but something I'm very big on trust, especially when it comes to whether it's marketing, whether it's business, whether it be your relationship. So I had to come clean, and I go, honey, gotta tell you, just to be real with you. I've been using Plated the last couple weeks. She goes, oh, I know. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, well, yeah, I mean, what I was doing was I was getting you good information so you could make a better, more informed decision and help you out so that you could ultimately solve the solution that we had, or you would present a solution for what we had, and then everybody wins. Plated wins because they get a new customer. You win because you were able to make me happy, and I win because I got what I want. I was like, she goes, isn't this what you do for a living? And I go, damn, that is right. Like, and what's funny about it is there's these things that go on all the time that we don't know about. Like, we legitimately are influenced every day. If I am telling you honestly that I'm in this space of influencing, and I didn't catch in that moment that I was being influenced, that's crazy. We're being influenced a lot every day and we don't know it. And so it's very, very important that you are doing everything you can to surround yourself with the content that is going to gain that trust. That Plated did in such a great way. And what Plated did, I actually ran into the people who wrote those articles. I spoke at an event, ran into a couple of the VPs who wrote that, where we're responsible for it. And what was great about that moment is that I go, like, what made you do that? And they go, it's simple. We just thought about them. We listened to the clients. There was a lot of people who had spouses that were trying to cook. We also knew that they needed tools to use our service, and at the same time, it was valuable. They needed to know that. And so what they did in that moment is what I call content triggering. And I challenge you guys all here, whether in marketing in the future, it's going to be one of the most important things with this trend. When you're thinking about them, you have to use content triggering. And what that is that when you are talking to anybody, whether it be a personal conversation, a business conversation, when you have an engaging moment where you know that you feel like, wow, they really got that. They really value that information. They really actually, it made this conversation better. Write that down. You are the best researcher in your life. In your companies, the best researchers are not the Accentures, and I'm not dissing the Accentures, but there's times for them. A lot of the best researchers are your salespeople, the people that are dealing with your customers, that are understanding them on an everyday basis. And so think about that, and that's the beauty of content triggering, because it's a big part of the future. If you can consistently address all those challenges, all of those things, you're going to own that them marketing side, because you're going to always be thinking about the customer. And then the next thing is you just have to do it consistently. It's not rocket science. If you do this on a consistent, actually it is science in a way, it's consolidation. It's a memory process that takes you from their short-term memory to long-term memory. And so it was a funny moment. It was a while ago, but I've been infatuated with memory, because I think that's one of the biggest goals with us, not just as marketers, but as people as well. We want to go from short-term to long-term memory in people's lives. And what was really cool about this moment that I had is this guy's name's Paul Spiegelman. He's the Chief Culture Officer for StairCycle, and he's a well-known author about company culture. And he said, John, I want to be the number one person that is known for company culture, that truly wants to help people, whether it be 2 years from now, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. I want to be known as that person. He goes, is there anything in your mind that you're in somebody's long-term memory about for 20 years? And I go, I can't think of anything. I was like, honestly, Paul, no. When I was 5 or 10, I don't know what I was doing. And he goes, anything? I go, actually, there is the Cabbage Patch Kid song. And he goes, the Cabbage Patch Kid song? And I go, yeah, the Cabbage Patch Kid song. And he goes, what the hell are you talking about? And I said, well, I'm not good at remembering music, and I never have been. I'm the awkward friend that sings the popular songs on the radio. Everybody has that friend that just screams the popular songs on the radio, doesn't know one of the words. That's me. I'm that awkward guy. And I do remember the Cabbage Patch Kids song, and it's because in those moments when I was 5 or 6, my sister had me go in to the basement where her rooms were where her friends were all hanging out, and they had me sing that song. And I remember the engaging moments because this was more entertainment engagement. I know this is funny, I started getting laughs up here already, it gets worse. And once a month I would do that. And she just it was a party favor. And I remember those moments, and it stuck in, I had that consolidation process, and it was only, 12 times, and I remember that my whole life. My sister just got married, and we were sitting at her rehearsal dinner, and the same people, she's been very fortunate, has the friends that she got when she was young, were there. We all knew the song. It's stuck in our mind. It's stuck in our mind for over 20 years. And that's the beauty of when you actually engage people and you have these moments in life, if you have the chance to do it, take them. Like, even if it's as simple like that, the plated example, they just helped me out with my wife, and I'll always remember them. I'll remember plated till I'm 80, or I'll probably live till I'm 60 or something like that, but I will remember that. And that's why it's so important. And so you have to not just think about how can I educate, how can I think about them, how can I gain their trust, but also how can I do it consistently. And so I want you to stick with you. I tell that story for a reason, is I want you to remember it. So don't just try different things and be like, oh, I'm going to give up, or this. You have to do things consistently. That big goal of going from the short-term to the long-term memory is important. So for those of you who don't believe me, who doesn't believe me about the Cabbage Patch Kids song? No? Here we are, Remy, stuck in this old gold mine, just as sad as we can be. It feels like a long, long time, and we've laughed and played together, you and me. And I wish we could go far away. Oh, Remy, simple Sadie. You want me to rap? Know what it means? Felt the same way too. Yeah, I know it. So it's real. And so when you put that together, these are fairly it's fairly simple when it comes to marketing, and we have to remain simple as we get more complicated. I know that sounds crazy, but as technology starts altering and doing all these crazy things, that we have to embrace it. But we don't want to lose it, because it's going to put us at risk that we might actually lose the humanity where there's so much machine and artificial intelligence going on. I embrace it. I think it's great. I already said what Erik's doing is amazing. But at the same time, you have to have that core of, truly, I'm connecting to humans. It's a human-to-human connection. There's always going to be human influence, and you have to remember that. The last thing that I'll talk about is that there's the true evolution of marketing that I'm seeing is that now marketing is not just for marketing. And the reason why it's because of these trends that I've talked about, is that marketing used to be all about product and salesy. You can never use that in other parts of the company that we're engaging. But now it's turning into actually being more engaging content, more thinking about the other end rather than just us. So what I'm seeing more than ever with trends is that marketing is being turned into not just one department, but it's being turned into pretty much this core part of the company. And even my company is a great example of our success, is this evolution of marketing. When we started the company, the idea was personal branding. It was, hey, there's busy people that are leading companies that we need to develop a human connection to the audience that they're serving. We've got to do that. And yes, it's great for personal branding. It will help bring opportunities to the company. The next thing you know is we can use that content to help and engage others, which that can help the company. That's when the thought leadership trend came along. We're like, sweet, personal branding was a buzzword. We're just going to jump that wave and go to the next buzzword of thought leadership. We're just buzzword surfing right now. And then the next thing is that content marketing took off. And when content marketing took off, it was like, wow, we had this content coming from key employees that is engaging, that can not just help with their brands, but we can use it in email marketing, we can use it in social, we can use it in all these areas where, like now PR. Look at PR. When I was first contributing to Forbes, I was like the 150th columnist there. Now I'm like one of 1,500, 2,000. There's less journalists, there's more contributors. The PR world is now influencer marketing, which is very closely related to content marketing. And so you're seeing all these things converge on each other. And so where we're at right now is content marketing, thought leadership, PR, personal branding, they've all converged. But what's going to happen, and what this next 5 years is that once the true winners that are going to basically really stand out are taking those strategies and adding it into their recruiting, or putting those processes into investor communications, into employee communications. So for example, if you're recruiting and you're trying to engage someone, use that content to nurture them from start to finish. As soon as they turn in an application, actually send them the content that you've developed and have them read that before they even actually get the job. Our employees read about 100 articles before they even start day one with us. We get free training doing that, and we're gonna find the best people that way. So this next 5 years, you're gonna see a lot of that. You're gonna see success in these areas of marketing, and you're gonna see it being taken over so that the winners are gonna be the ones that embrace that in every part of their business. This is the first time when we've been able to do that because of we're thinking about them, but also we can scale it with technology. We've never been able to do that before, and that's what's ridiculously amazing, and I'm excited. So I know I'm probably over time, so I'm not gonna go longer, but thank you for having me. I'll be here and look forward to having drinks.